Hawaii Jottings. The City Morning Herald of March 11th publishes the following. Some of the Hawaiians want to become subjects of the United States. A while ago, an agitation resolved itself into a deputation and got as far as the capital of the United States with a petition to be annexed. But the American authorities hesitated. It has but seldom happened that an independent state, so to speak, begs that its nationality be extinguished and its people absorbed as subjects of a foreign power. And that is exactly in harmony with the War of the Stateless Persons, which is on Amexem Almanac. Speaking of the undesirables, those who do not have a nationality are to be socially absorbed. But this is what is happening at Hawaii. If the reports which are reaching here by the mail steamers are correct, the Waramu, now in port, brings across the latest particulars of the reappearance in Honolulu of this desire for annexation. They're begging to be socially absorbed. A letter puts it thus: at the present time, Hawaii is substantially an American country and practically is in American hands. It has been nourished by the immense aid of the Treaty of Reciprocity. Yet, notwithstanding those advantages, a British colony of nearly half its size has grown up within it. They've been colonized with the powerful stimulus of an overwhelming British commerce calling here. It seems certain that the latter nationality will outgrow the Americans unless this group is speedily adopted as part of the Great Union. Annexation will result in pouring into Hawaii an influx of American population, which at once fix its destiny as the great western outpost and fortress of American domination over the commerce of the Pacific. So they was begging, they want to be stateless and socially absorbed. So you want to be a U.S. citizen? Because that's what they see you as a subject, to be socially absorbed because you're stateless without a nationality, seen as undesirable, as Noble Drew Ali said. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional governments are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. Now that is exactly what the War of the Stateless Person is. It said you extinguish your nationality and you are socially absorbed and fined and feed to death by feudal colonization operations. Indeed, this is from the 1800s. According to the Chicago Inter-Ocean, 3,000 Mormons have landed at the port of New York during the present year, and it is estimated that they have 75 converts in Europe ready to come. Recently, 25 missionaries were sent into the southern states, where they are reported as having made many converts. Already, the territories adjacent to Utah are being Mormonized, and another 5 years will find them as fully under Mormon control as Utah. The laws thus far enacted are wholly insufficient, and there is good reason for alarm. The attitude of the Mormon Church is that of hostility to all laws, national and divine. There is no mistaking the fact that the time has come for action on the part of Congress. No halfway measures will answer. It is not a question of politics, but one of outraged morals, a shameless disregard of decency, a slap in the face to well-ordered and civilized society. They going in on the Mormons, bro. Said a slap in the face to well-ordered and civilized society. The Christian men and women of the land should arouse from their lethargy and do some active work before it is too late to avert a catastrophe. They was going in on the Mormons. Chicago. Farmers in an isolated district of the Dakota Prairies have a cult whose rites are as startling as the most bizarre of the mystic cults in the cities, says Miss Florence Bratsburg in a bill of divorce filed here. According to her allegations, some of the tenets of the order are which her husband belongs are: wives must be beaten at regular intervals. The eyes of wives must be puffed and blackened by blows so that they will not be attractive to other men. Husbands must leave their wives for long periods so that their love will not die of monotony. Miss Bratsburg says she had never heard the name of the cult, but that its memberships included many farmers. The cult adherents, she said, beat their wives and spent long periods away from home. You hear this craziness, man? This is what can be used, man, with this gnosis. They can turn it around, man, and have people submissive and doing all kinds of craziness. Asiatic cult in Chicago raided by the police. This was like 1912 or 1913. Chicago. 2 departments of the United States government, the Post Office and the Department of Justice, today began investigations of the Black Rose cult. The Post Office, whose members occupied an old mansion at 3340 Michigan Avenue, but it still sounds familiar. 3340 Michigan Avenue, that sounds familiar. As a temple, until the police raided the place Monday night and carried away men and women, blacks and whites. Laurence, who calls himself doctor and claims to be a Choctaw Indian, is charged by the police with violations of the Mann Act and use of the males to defraud. When I looked up Mann Act, it had to do with Asiatic men being around European daughters. But this Laurence, he went on to make a bunch of esoteric books and stuff like that, right? But he was obviously around whatever the Black Rose, which I think of Rosicrucians, but you know, Asiatic and Europeans was in here together doing this study, and keep that in mind. Mann Act and use of the male to defraud, which is the same thing they used against Marcus Garvey and tried to do with Noble Drew Ali. So they was doing operations against this stuff, man. Also, the police asserted that Laurence is a Negro and not an Indian. But see, when you go look up this Laurence, he's a pale-skinned man, so why they call him a Negro here? So was they calling pale-skins Negroes at this point? Or is the pale-skinned man that you go look up Laurence, and he's a pale-skin, is that not really him? Among the trappings of the cult found at the temple by the police was a wooden cigar store Indian, which was a fetish before the members of the cult prostrated themselves in devotion. So around a year ago, I found this flag, and it was the Nicaragua flag, and I found it because it had the fez on it, and it was known as the Liberty Cap of Freedom. But also, we speaking of Havana, Cuba, and Noble Drew Ali, I was speaking about Nicaragua having this fez on the flag. But then I remembered that I found the flag a year ago, and I found it because of the fez, and I knew it was special, but I didn't understand what it was. But then I'm reading more into this Havana conference, and they was really bashing United States, especially for allowing 13 bankers to assist in colonizing Nicaragua and stuff like that. So Noble Drew Ali was assisting them brothers as well. But then when I thought of this flag, I knew it was special. I didn't know any history behind it, but it has to do with Noble Drew Ali, because the revolution at the time, the ones that they was pushing out, like I said, the 10%, the few, they started calling them rebels and stuff, but those are the ones that was trying to keep their stuff. But they got the fez there. Noble Drew Ali came and assisted them brothers as well. As you know, the Moorish Science Temple of America membership card in Cuba. And it makes me think of Tupac's sister when they broke her out of federal prison. Where'd they take her? To Cuba. And we know, as far as CMB, the A1 status, saying that U.S. lost jurisdiction in Morocco, that has to do with Havana, Cuba as well. Because they were speaking about the open door policy. But I thought it was real special. Also, I found this is from like 1967. And it's a poster of a man sitting with his legs crossed. And it has to do with Nicaragua, and he has the same headdress as Noble Drew Ali. But we also seen all them Europeans, which one of them I believe was Coolidge, sitting in a row with their legs crossed because they was delegates. Now, as far as Noble Drew Ali, I don't think he was a delegate of the United States, but he was a delegate of either Nicaragua or Moorish America. I'm not sure, but all the delegates had they legs crossed like that. And here's another thing. When you come into Havana, Cuba, when they came in, guess where they had to enter through? Moro's Castle. Then they went on, and all the flags of all the nations was gathered up at the University of Havana. Then they went to the Havana, Cuba Theater. A Mexam Almanac had a demonstration on Canaan Land Moors last night. And it was a long demonstration, man. I didn't realize, each little segment, when you put them together, it's a lot of hours of study. And I see all of y'all watching from the bushes, but you don't support. But feel free to step out from them bushes, brothers and sisters, and say, Islam, brother Latif.